Okay, the purpose of this video is to install containers in Linux. Once we get containers installed, we can put software into them and have them run isolated from the rest of the system. Mixxx in particular. If we put Mixxx into a container, it can't attack the audio feeds of other software that you may be running. Installing containers is a long and tedious process, but it's relatively easy, well, up to a point. And we're going to start the process now. What you're looking at on the screen is Linux Mint 18, and it's running virtual. This is running in VirtualBox, and what you're looking at is a virtual console. There are some slight difference running virtual, but they aren't significant, so everything should run pretty much the same on your home machine. All right, first of all, we have to install the needed software. So we go down to System, we go down to Administration, and we go to Synaptic Package Manager, and we give the password. All right, here's Synaptic, and it takes a moment to load. First of all, we're going to need a package called PAPREFS, and mark that for installation, and it brings in other things. That's normal. Next of all, we're going to need lxc-2. There's more than one lxc in here. You want lxc-2 at the moment because it's going through a transition. All right, that brings in a pile of stuff. And the next one is dbootstrap. I've had trouble finding this in the past. I'll search over here. Probably spelling, but anyway. Dbootstrap. Now, what did I... Dbootstrap... I didn't spell it right. There you go. There it is, dbootstrap. Mark that for installation. The next one is lxc templates. lxc, whoops, templates. And I don't know why it's not doing it, but it's decided not to do it. All right, let's try it over here. There we go. Mark that for installation. All right. What else do we need? We need Mixxx. We're going to eventually use Mixxx. 3 X's on Mixxx. Well, it's looking in the wrong place. There we go. It brings in a lot of audio-related software. And I think that's the complete list. There may be other packages you want, but these are the ones apparently we're going to need for this. And we click Apply. Now, it runs pretty quick, but it does take a while to download these packages and install them. After we install them, we're going to create a container. And when we create a container, we're actually creating a Linux environment. And you get to pick the Linux environment. The Linux environments are in lxc templates. They're stored on your system someplace. I don't recall the exact location, but they're down there someplace. The template we're going to use is Ubuntu because that's probably the most popular. But there are others there. So I am done. You always want to make sure that Synaptic comes back and like this. It's refreshed itself because you could screw up some tables if you prematurely kill it. All right, so that should be there. Everything should be running. I don't think I need to do anything else at the moment. The next thing is we need to actually create the container. So we bring up a terminal. Now, I've moved the terminals into my menu bar down here. Normally they're in System Tools. That's your terminal. I've kept the colors. They're kind of garish, but nonetheless. You need to do this as root. So I'll say sudo su. Not supposed to do that, but it is easier sometimes. Now we type lxc-create. Just remember you're in root, and you can do damage. Because I'm in a virtual system, I can repair it very quickly. lxc-create-n, and here's where we give it the container a name. I'm not going to be very creative. I'll just say cont1. Cont1, that's the name of the container I'm creating. And we have to say what type of container it's going to be, what will be in there. Ubuntu. All right. Now what it's actually going to do, I'll hit it here. It's going to take quite a long time. It's really downloading the entire Ubuntu operating system and all of the things that normally go with it. And it's storing them in a subdirectory, which we'll look at a little later. I'm going to let this sit here and cook. You will see a lot of software packages coming down, being extracted and installed. They're not really installing into your system. They're installing into a subdirectory. So they're there, but they're not really part of your system. They will be used by the container, however. The container will run in that operating system environment. Okay. All right, the previous command, lxc-create, has finished. It took quite a long time, and this is what the screen looks like at the end. I'm still in root. The next thing is we would like to check a couple of things that are probably all right. Go down to System, go down to Administration, Users and Groups, and we're going to check on whether or not you are a member of LXD, which you probably are. There it is, LXD. Properties, yes, I'm already, it automatically put me in there, that group. Whoops, I don't want to actually change anything. The other one is lxc DNS MSA, which I think, I don't know, I'm adding myself to it. I'm not sure that's required, but never can tell. It's not going to hurt anything, at least not at this point. All right, so we've got the groups taken care of. The question is, where did it install all this stuff? And I do have to be root to do this. It is in cd/var/lib/lxc/name of the container, which the name of the container is cont1. And when you go down there, you'll see two files. One is the configuration file, which we'll modify later on, and the other is the root file system. This is the root file system of the container. And if I go down to root fs, you will see, what is that? Oh, it looks like the top end of a Linux distribution, which in fact it is. That's the Linux distribution that the container will use. The containers are not virtual, but they nonetheless, they run sandboxed in a distribution. So that's where that is. The next thing we've got to do, and I'm going back up to the top here, I'm in my home directory now. I probably want to go back to the directory I was in, which was, my name is O'Kane, so not much down here, but that's where I started off in. Next thing is we've got to do an initialization, and that's relatively simple. It's LXD, LXD, not LXC, LXD init. And we're going to take the defaults. When they eventually come up, that's probably starting the daemon. All right, I don't know the exact meaning of these. I'm just taking the defaults. This is something you can look up at a later date. They obviously have to do with configurations and bridges and so forth. So now the system is properly configured. At this point here, you need to reboot to make all this take effect. So I'm hitting a reboot, which will cause the screen to disappear in a moment, and I will pause the video at this point. All right, we're back up now. You may notice some date changes and screen size changes. That's because there was a power failure between yesterday and today, so I had to redo a lot of things. Anyway, I'm as root again, and I am going to start the container. lxc-start. Excuse me, that's one word, dash start. It's not a separate word. Dash D, dash N, lowercase, cont1. That's the name of the container. So starting it. Next, we're going to go in as a console user to the container. lxc console dash n cont1. And it asks, I'm logging into the container. And for Ubuntu, the login is Ubuntu and the password is Ubuntu. It scrolled by on all of that information from the earlier part of the video. So it's Ubuntu, and the password is Ubuntu. And that's really not a very secure, security is not really an issue here because you're running in your own system. It's a program running for you, but you could change it if you wanted to. Now we're into the container. We're talking to a prompt from the container. We need to install some software, which we are going to use. So that would be sudo apt-get install, first of all, xauths. If we want to be able to use xauth, if we want to be able to use the X Windows system, we have to have this software installed in the container. And it's going to ask for this password, and it's installing. And we go through the usual dialog for apt-get. All right, next one is X11 apps. Apt-get install X11 apps. This gets a variety of X11 widgets and so forth. Whoops, what did I do wrong? Oh, I forgot to do sudo. I just back up here. It might be easier to just type it in here. X11 Okay, now we need to back out into the host system. And backing out to the host system, you may have noticed at the top there when we logged in, it's Control-A and Q on the same line. That takes you back to the host system. And now I am going to back out and not be root, so I'll go out of root. Now I'm just the regular user. Okay, I'm back in the host system. The next thing we need to know is the IP number of the container. This will vary depending upon which your system, so you may need to do this a couple of times actually. The way that you find out the IP number is lxc-ls-f as root, and there it is. It's, in this case, it's 10.0.3.65. This we need to remember because, and I'm looking for a pen to write it down, because we'll need this later on. So it's 10.0.3.65. It'll look something like that. The last digits are probably the ones that will vary on your system. All right, so we exit out of root. We're now back as a regular user. Now we need to log in to the container. You log in with SSH. If you don't have SSH, you should check on it and install it. So you go to Synaptic Package Manager. Did I type that right? Nope. All right, Synaptic Package Manager. It's already installed here, so yes, I think it is. SSH. Oh, no, it isn't. Sorry. Mark it for installation. And apply. This allows you to talk to the container. And let Synaptic come back to life. You may destroy some tables. All right, now let's talk to the container. SSH-X Ubuntu at, and then we type in the number 10.0.3.65. And it may argue with you that it doesn't know this host, which is fine. It's actually you. It wants the password, well, which I've typed wrong. Ubuntu is the password. Didn't take it. I hit F12. That probably really screwed it up. Okay, now I am logged in to the container. It's a non-privileged user. You can see the $sign there. Let's try running something that uses X Windows. And how about X clock? Bingo, there's a clock. So the container has access to X Windows, which is good because you need access to X Windows in order to get Mixxx to run. In terms of firing off applications and killing the clock here, I could have done it with an ampersand, and then the clock would be asynchronous. I got control back, and the clock is up there running. That's probably the way you want to start things from the container in many cases. Okay, so now I need to exit the container and go back to the other side, back to real mode. Okay, Control D will do. You don't need the Control A Q. It's not Control Q, it's the letter Q. It's Control A followed by a Q. That's only when you do an lxc console type login. An SSH login, you don't. Okay, we need to set it up so that Mixxx can have access to the underlying audio system. In order to do that, we go back to the original system, which we see here, not as root. We need to give it access, and that's what the PA prefs was for. So I'm back as a regular user in my host system, PA prefs, and here you go. And we go to network, enable network access to local sound devices. I've been checking don't require authentication. I don't know if that's required or not, but anyway, I have. So fine, we've done that. I don't know if there's anything else interesting here. We probably don't want it discoverable across the network, but anyway, that's the one you need, enable network access. Okay. All right, now again, back on the host system as a regular user, we need to go in and install some software. So we will do the SSH again. Let me just back up, there it is. SSH -x Ubuntu at whatever number you fill in. Yours will be different probably. Okay, and the password Ubuntu. So I'm back logged into the container. First of all, we have to do sudo apt-get install Pulseaudio and the password. I have a note that says this may already be installed, so if it says it's already installed, don't worry about it. In my case, it is actually installing it, apparently. Okay, now we need to install Mixxx. Three X's. Mixxx is rather large, and it brings a lot of other software with it. So basically, what we've done is we've downloaded the Ubuntu template, we've created it, we've initialized it. Now we have a container which we can log into, and we can run things in the container. Things running in the container are isolated from our outside system. It's not virtual, but it gives us most of the sandbox characteristics of running something virtual. All right, that's done. Now we need to exit from the container, Control D or exit, whichever you want, and we're now back in the host system. What we need to do is we need to get the appropriate numbers for Pulse so that we can give the container access to it. So we want to type xprop -root Pulse server. And we should see a long string come out. The long string, the important thing, is way down here at the end, 4713, and that'll probably be what yours is too. 4713 is a number we need to remember. All right, we are now going to go back into the container. This time a little bit differently. SSH dash X. Well, I could probably, most of that's going to be the same. So the login part is the same, but we are now going to say dash R, capital R, 14713 colon local host. Sure, I'm typing this correctly. Colon 4713. That's the 4713 we got from above. And the password. And there we are. Now we have to export some information. If we export Pulse server equals quote TCP colon localhost colon 14713. All right. We also want to put this in the .bash rc command. Since this needs to be done every time we want to use Mixxx, we need to put it into the login shell. If you do an ls-a, you'll see the hidden files. They begin with a dot. The one we want to hit is .bash bshrc. I'm going to use vi. I assume nano or something must be available. It's vi. Just follow the instructions. .bashrc if you don't know. Okay, that brings me up in bash. It's unfortunately a very bad color scheme, but nonetheless. Shift G takes us to the very bottom. The capital G takes us to the very bottom. And I'm typing a lowercase o. That puts me into input mode. And I'm going to type the same thing again. Export Pulse server equals quote TCP colon localhost colon 14713 close quote. Now double check this. It's kind of important that it be done correctly, and it looks like I typed it correctly. So it's TCP colon localhost colon 14713. Notice no blanks. And now I want to get out of insert mode, hit the escape character. You'll see the insert mode disappeared. I've put this line at the very bottom so that in case you type something wrong, it will not screw up your login. So it's the last thing the bash configuration file does. Okay, and we need to write it out. To write it out, you type colon WQ. That means write and quit. Okay, and we're back into the container. Now, before we leave the container, we need to create a directory where we will mount our music. The music will be on the host system, but it will be mounted in the container. And the one I've picked is music. So make dir music. I'm using a capital M, doesn't matter, but remember what you did. All right, now we're done with the container. We go back to the other side. All right, now I'm back in the host system. I just rebooted, so this is something we should address right now. First of all, after rebooting the virtual system that I'm in, the container isn't running, so we need to restart the container. So whenever you boot up, you will need to start the container. It doesn't start by itself. And so to do that, we need to become root, or you can sudo this. And the command is, it's back here, I've used it several times, lxc-start -n, and then the name of the container, CONT1. So it's the command is lxc-start, it's all one, no spaces, space, -n, space, name of container. And that started the container. So now I go back to the host. Now what we need to do, actually I should have stayed root, what we need to do is modify the configuration file so that it will mount my audio clips directory into the music directory in the container. Remember I created an empty directory called music, spelled with a capital M, and what I want to do is mount this directory in there. This is my audio clips. I want them to be shared with the container. So how do I do that? Well, I'll go back and I should have stayed root. Because you need it's a root directory you're going to be editing. So I go cd/var/lib/lxc/cont1. That's where the container is. And then you see the file, the configuration file, and there's the root file system. The root file system looks like a standard Linux file system, and everything will be where you expect it, including the user Ubuntu will be under home. Now, if I actually just /home/Ubuntu, and you'll see there's my music directory, and there's a Mixxx directory. Mixxx has already been run once, so it has some things in it. I don't know exactly what. All right, so I want to edit the configuration file. I've already done it actually. Let's see, am I in the right directory? Yes. All right, this is the configuration file. This is what let me stretch this out a bit so it doesn't wrap around. This is the line in question. I've added it here. And you have to add it exactly right. So it's lxc.mount.entry equals, no spaces, and then you give the address relative to the root file system of the host system of where the audio clips are. And that would be /home/ocane/desktop. You can see it's on my desktop. /audio clips. That's the directory I want to share. Space. Then you have to give the long entry to get you down to the music directory where I want to mount it, which is /var/lib/lxc/cont1/rootfs/home/ubuntu/music. Capital M. Make sure you type it correctly. It's not going to fix it for you. You type it wrong, it won't work. All right. Notice there's a blank between the source and the target, the place we're going to mount. Then there's a space, the word none, space, bind, space, 0, space, 0. If you get it all typed really neatly, it should work. And it will cause the audio clips directory to be mounted under music. And as you can see why I didn't type this live, because I type bad enough as it is. All right, so that's it. You can edit it with VI or Nano or whatever you're using, the system editor, if you start it as root, because this is this directory here, everything's owned by root, so you have to be root privileges. When the editor has to have root privileges in order to modify anything. Okay, let's go out of root. We're now back in the host, and let's talk to the server there, or the container. Okay, and if I do an ls of music, you can see my directories are down there. My files are down there. All right. The question is, will this work? Yes, it will. I will have to switch the audio because the Record My Desktop wants the microphone, and the virtual system would like to have like not to use the microphone. It wants to take its input from someplace else. So I'm going to pause the video here, and then I'll start it up, and I'll show you running Mixxx, and you will hear some of the audio. All right, here we see the Mixxx just getting started. There's the library. And we're about to play some music down here, which is not public domain, so Google won't get all upset. And you should be able to hear it coming through. It's Rhapsody in Blue. Now that's running in the container. Now I open up a song in the outer box. Okay, this is in the host system. They're both running simultaneously. As you see, I'm clicking back and forth. The container is running independently of the host system.